Well, hello, folks, and welcome to the Melhorn Fishing Podcast. I hope you're having a good day, whenever it is that you happen to be listening to this podcast, or you may be watching it. Some of you guys know my audio podcast that I've been doing for a while, a couple of years now. I'm doing a video version of it also. And so you could be watching this on YouTube. You could be listening to it on one of your favorite podcast platforms. But I started doing the video version just because I was hearing from some people that, they like throwing YouTube stuff on at home on the TV, streaming it, have it blasting through their stereo speakers in the house, and they listen to stuff that way. So I said, you know what, I'm going to put out a video version of it. Some people are not into the whole podcast thing. Some that's a generational thing. Some people just depending on where it is. But there's some people that just listen to the podcast. They're like me. They may be traveling, driving, flying, and they really love having, just put it on the speakers and vehicle going down the road, put it in some earbuds while you're flying, and you can listen to it. So I'm doing both of them. The YouTube's not really geared for big views or big distribution. It's mainly for you guys, so you got another way to listen to it. And sometimes it's pretty cool to see some of these people that we're talking to. I've done a couple recently the way I like them. I like interviewing people. I'm trying to do some really good interviews. I got a couple that are still coming up. I'm trying to put out maybe a couple of those a month. And I'm going to do more of these with me, talking about stuff. I kind of don't like doing them because I feel I talk enough in my videos as it is, but I was getting a lot of feedback from people. Just they like seeing the tackle reviews. They like seeing, talking about fishing techniques, that kind of stuff. Obviously, I put out a ton of videos doing that, but, sometimes sitting there seeing some of the stuff, the videos that I shoot and edit and put out are designed to be kind of keep people watching. And, it's maybe for the casual viewer, somebody that's new to the channel, just looking to figure something out, just want to know something about a certain reel. And a lot of times we don't go into super deep depth in those videos because sometimes it just doesn't work in that format. And that is the beauty of the podcast format, is that you can sit here and talk and ramble a lot longer, and it's designed for a different type of viewer. So that's why I'm going to keep on doing them. And we'll see how it goes, see if you guys enjoy it. 3 things today we're going to be hitting on. One's going to be a recent podcast. I'm going to let you know what's up with it. That's the one with Caleb Page. Another thing's going to be, we're talking a little bit about the channel comments on my YouTube channel. Those who may know something about the channel know my comments have been turned off. We got some news there. And we're also going to talk about the spawn, catching catfish, and what's going on with the spawn and what I'm seeing, that kind of thing right now. If you want to reach out to me, I know on podcasts, on the traditional podcast, that's kind of tough. But you can always, for any of this stuff, whether you're watching this video podcast and want to find out where to get the audio podcast, or vice versa, you're listening to it and want to see it, or if you want to contact me, give me some feedback, go to my website, melhornfishing.com. There's links there. There's a contact section there. People ask about the gear I use. I got a section that's got the different gear that I use in there and links to all it. Also links to some of the sponsors there on the page, Catfish being one of them. If you buy anything from Catfish, make sure when you check out, use the promo code CATFISH, CATFISH. You'll save some extra money on the checkout there. There's also some other folks there, Hybrid Light, Illuminacy, and PC Fun. So all that's there. But the biggest thing is the contact section. And you can, send me an email, send me a text, reach out to me about a guide trip. I'm doing guide trips in the Carolinas. So we got that going on. So that's kind of that. The first thing I wanted to bring up was the Caleb Page podcast. I did a podcast with him. The video version went up fine. There was no problem with it. It went up. People saw it. You watched it on YouTube. Great podcast with him. Very revealing. He's very candid. Just revealed some really cool stuff. And now you have to go listen to it. Gave me a new respect for Caleb Page and what he's done at Catch the Fever, Big Cat Fever rods, Striper Stealth rods, the whole line of fishing rods that they put out. The problem was with the audio podcast, well, something happened and only part of it uploaded. It showed it as complete on my end, and they got about 6 or 7 minutes into it and was gone. So that's been fixed. That's up there. So if you listen to it and you go, wow, that was kind of a lousy 6-minute podcast, It's up in its entirety now, and the video version is up on the channel too. So bring y'all up to date on that. I apologize for that. It's a cool podcast. I got another one coming up here in a couple of weeks with somebody. I think you're really gonna like it. Caleb's was great. I think the next one's gonna be even better. So I'll have that up in a few weeks here. But if you've been a follower of my channel for a while on YouTube, you'll know that my comments have been turned off. That is, a lot of people don't know this, don't understand it, especially if you're new. I put a video out when it first happened. I guess that's been 2 years ago, and explained it. And it's something YouTube did. They had a whole big reason as to why they did it. That's super complicated, sort of secretive, and never really explained well. But they turned off comments to several 100,000 YouTube channels. Probably one of the ones you will know, one of the biggest ones, was Catfish and Carp. They've got a channel, and I think it happened on the Outdoor Boys, or one of them, or both of them. That's probably the biggest one you know. Luke over there at Catfish and Carp had his comments turned off too. And it stemmed from some child protection thing they were trying to do. And, you know, Luke has his kids in almost all his videos. I've got my son in a couple of them. I think I got snagged into the whole group accidentally because on a video where I had my son hunting with me, they considered it dangerous or something for the child. And I think that's what led to it. And then I got kind of lumped into this category of this kind of content when 95% of what I do is just me fishing. But long story, I looked into this for a long time, had conversations with YouTube, and, you know, it never got fixed. And pretty much about 6-7 months ago, I just kind of said, you know what, my channel's growing fine. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to pursue it any longer. And I figured, you know, my channel's going to do what my channel's going to do. I had a feeling it was hindering my growth. You know, you're going to lose some people. I didn't think it was significant because people have a way to contact me. That is the one thing about my channel. You can go to my website and email me all day. People do it daily. You can message me. There's ways to get a hold of me if you've got a serious question, you want to ask something. What it was eliminating was a lot of the flyby comments from people where they just want to be rude. They just want to be mean. They just want to be derogatory. And it eliminated a lot of that. But I don't mind. I don't mind the criticism and the talk to a certain extent as long as it's creative and you know, something that can help you. So anyway, I just kind of dismissed it and said, hey, it's never coming back. It is what it is. Then 2 days ago, I get an email from YouTube that says, Dieter Melhorn Fishing, your comments are being turned back on. Apparently they're doing this system-wide on a bunch of channels, turning the comments back on. Apparently they have some protections in place now that will help them protect whoever it is they're protecting, however it is they're doing it. So the bottom line is, guys, the comments are back on. And they're up, and you can comment on videos now. People have been excited about that, and getting some comments on the last one that I put up. Nice little pile of them. Some of the older videos have, you know, people are commenting on those as they're being watched. Some of the people are confused why a video from 3 years ago, they're the first person to comment on it, but it didn't bring back any of the old comments. And so yeah, you can, you know, leave stuff there. In the beginning, when I started the channel, I tried to comment and respond to every comment that's put on there. I'm not going to be able to do that at this point in this channel. We're right around 60,000 subscribers, and try to address the questions, you know, in there, you know, but I used to give thanks, you know, hey, appreciate it, you know, try to mention everybody's name. It's going to be virtually impossible to do that at this point. But, you know, if there's a question in there, I'm going to try catching it, try answering it. And always, you know, you can still reach out to me through the website and, you know, get a hold of me there. So anyway, that's a, you know, kind of a quick little thing on what's going on with the comments. So if you just couldn't watch my channel before because it didn't have comments, well, you got comments now. So I'm excited to see what happens with it. I hope it progresses in a good, positive manner. We got some stuff set up in place to keep it that way and keep some of the BS out of it. So yeah, we'll see what happens with it. So that's the news on that front. The other thing is, by the time this podcast goes up, it's going to be early July, after July 4th. And this is the time period when I always say ain't no point in fishing for big catfish between Memorial Day and July 4th. You can catch them, fish get caught, but that's just kind of a time period when the spawn takes place. And especially for the blue cat and flathead species, it's tough fishing during that time period. A lot of those bigger, more mature fish start to disappear. And it's just tough fishing. So it's something to keep in mind. Now, listen, I fish regardless. I've run guide trips. I let people know what's going on. They still want to go fishing. We go fishing. We've caught fish. It's just tougher. You just don't have as easy a trip. It's not as easy a pickings as it was back in early May, April, when fish are ramping up, coming up out of the cold water. Water's getting warmer and warmer and warmer. It's just tougher is what it comes down to. The good news is we're into that time period where I think things are starting to shift. And I noticed it really big with the channel catfish. Channel catfish, I think, are done. I think they're done with all their spawning, at least here in the southeast where I'm at. And a lot of this applies pretty much anywhere in the southern United States. You guys up north, Midwest, upper Midwest, going to be different. You got a little different temperatures, but honestly, usually by this point in summer, it's getting pretty warm. So, but I think our channel cat, I've noticed that on the trips recently, is that channel cats are feeding like crazy. It's like you getting a lot of those in the creel from a catch throughout the day. Blues are hit or miss. We've had some trips where I've hit some areas, and usually they're mussel beds, and we've caught the hound out of fish. And you'll hit these areas like, man, this is it. And then you come back the next day and there ain't no fish there. Or you may come back the next day and catch some. You come back the third day and they're not there. It's like, I don't know exactly what is happening there. Or are those just a group of fish that you happen to find? Are those some that came off the spawn, they fed up, and they're relaxed and chilling and active right now? I don't know. But it has worked out to where we found some fish, and it's worked out good. But like I said, you'll go back and it's like, dang, they're not there. Had a trip recently with, we went out, we caught someone in there. It was a big mussel bed. And if you hadn't seen the video where I put my finger in the vent of the catfish to pull the mussels out, you got to check that out, because apparently that freaks some people out. That was like the most profound, crazy thing in the world that, but it's all in the name of science. It shows you what is in these fish. It also shows you why you get that little bubble sack thing that comes out of these catfish sometimes. I've heard so many people say, oh, you brought the fish up out of too deep of water. These fish were coming out of 12 or 14 feet of water, so it wasn't a decompression issue. So what happens, their bowels, the inner lining part, actually comes out of their body to expel these mussel shells. They eat these mussels whole, they're closed up, and they open up in there from the digestive juices. Everything inside of them comes out, and they have to get these shells out. The shells do not get digested. The shells come out whole. So you ever get out there in any of these areas along a beach somewhere and you see, just these, millions of shells, that's an area where there's a mussel bed nearby. What has happened is, through boat wake and stuff, those shells have got washed and tumbled and drug across the bottom. Some of them get drug up there by muskrats. I've heard that before. They come up there and that's where they're eating the things at. But a lot of these are just tumbled up there, especially if you're in a place that's got a lot of boat wake, and they'll get washed up there on the bank. And it's a clue that usually somewhere straight in line with that is a mussel bed that you can fish. So a little insider info there on how to find mussel beds. The other thing is, we find them a lot of times pulling anchors up out of the water. You anchor in a place where you've been catching fish for some reason. You anchor and you pull the anchor up. It's got mud and dirt and stuff on it, and it's full of mussels. You can go ding, ding, ding. That's the reason we're catching fish here. So anyway, that was a long way to go to tell you that fish can be found. It's getting better and better. I've seen, the big thing is now, that's great, is that you can jump on Facebook and go to the popular fishing groups, like Catfishing America. And you start to, it's almost like you could graph it from like April. You start seeing all these fish get caught. And then you get into that June time period and you still see some fish, but the numbers go down. And now you're starting to see some more big fish showing up. You're starting to see flatheads. You'll see more and more flatheads showing up here over the next month. So, it's like I said before, guys, it is what it is. It's a good time to get out there early. It's hot. We're getting into July. There ain't no getting around it. It's hot. Good time to be out fishing early. I know a lot of people like to fish at night. My thing is with where I fish at, most of the lakes I fish on have a lot of boat traffic in the summertime. And usually things stay stirred up for a while, at least until dark. And usually what I like to do, it usually takes a couple hours before things calm down enough to where you start getting bit. So a lot of times what I would rather do is just get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, get out there 2 or 3 hours before daylight and get that early daylight bite if that is happening where you're at. And, get some nighttime fishing in while it's dead still and calm. So that's kind of a little strategy I use. So you get a little bit of both, because usually around where I fish, and it may be different where you guys are at, but that 8, 9, 10 o'clock range, around here it's tough. It's like you usually sit around and don't do anything. You have to sit it out and wait until things get really calm, and it may be 11, 12, 1, 2 in the morning before you're getting bit. So that's why I like getting out there super early, fishing until daylight. Now, let me say this on the daylight bite. I love it when it's on. I love it when fish start popping on top of the water and, stuff's going on. There's a bunch of action. The sun's not over the trees. As I've said before, I wish 10 minutes before sunrise lasted for 3 hours. That's like the best time of the day to be out there, whether you're fishing or deer hunting. I love it. That time right before the sun comes above the trees. But I'll say this, the fish ain't always biting that time. It can be when it's on, it's great. But I've noticed here lately, we've been in that swing, that cycle, where the bite has actually been a little bit later. I had a guy trip yesterday and had him out there right at 6 a.m. Need to start doing it at 5:30 because it's light enough to navigate safely then. But it was 8, 9 o'clock. Probably between, I would say, 8 and 10 was probably the best fishing. It was after the sun had got up. And, what's that reason? Who knows? Is it tied to the lunar cycle? Possibly. I've always said that I believe there is something to a lunar cycle. Fish don't, even on a good bite, don't feed all day. I've never been out there to where you hit the water and they were biting and you left the water and they were biting. It just don't happen. There's feed cycles. And is that tied to the lunar cycle? Could be. That's what drives our tides. It's if you do any coastal fishing, saltwater fishing, you'll know that there is a cycle there. There are time periods where you're king of the world and you're just, Captain Killer catching all the fish and you think you're on, and that 90-minute window's up and you can't catch a fish. And that's all has to do with the tides. Tides are driven by the moon. So maybe some of that translates over into freshwater. Who knows what exactly the reasoning is. But just it is what it is. The worst thing, in my opinion, that can happen, and this will happen, we'll get on that rotation, is where the fishing is really good in the middle of the day, like 1, 2, 3 o'clock. And it will happen some days in the summer. Some of you guys that have, endured it out there in the middle of the day in the summertime and the heat and the boat traffic, have been on one of those bites where your boat's rocking back and forth with ski boats and jet skis, and you're dripping with sweat and the fish are biting. It happens. To me, it's the worst time to be out there. It's really tough, but sometimes you stumble into it and you figure out that it's happening. Maybe you're out there during the week fishing and, it's a rainy day and you happen to get on, you're like, dang, they're biting really good right now. And, the same thing in the, when it's sunny and hot. So it can happen. It's not the most fun, but, I say all this just to say, don't close your mind to being out there at a certain time, or, I'm only going to fish at night. That's the only time fish bite, or I'm only going to do it early in the morning. Fish when you can. You've heard me say that before. If I know it's not fun being out there in the heat, but if that's the only time you got to go, get out there and fish. It may be the time that they're feeding heavily during the day. So get out there and do some fishing and see what's going on and see what's happening, especially here as we get in this post-spawn phase. I think it's going to get better and better. It always does. It's been I think in my opinion, at least in our area, and I've noticed this kind of across the really the south, the southeast, we've had pretty good stable weather during this time period. We've had, it's like it is a lot of times. We haven't had any real flooding, any big major rain events. At least where we're at. Some of you guys in other parts of the country may have had that. And that usually means you're going to have a good spawn. Things are just stable. That stability is the best thing. I hear a lot of times here, I've heard people say it recently, man, our lake's down. And I'm talking about Lake Wiley, Lake Wateree, Lake Norman. Lake's not down. Our lakes are at their target elevation. A lot of people make the mistake of looking at the bank and they see that water line of where it used to be. And they say, oh, that water line's 3 feet higher than where it is now on those rocks or that wall. And what happened here is we had a lot of rain during the winter. We had a lot of high, full pond, occurrences for many days. And that's where that water stain comes from. They don't keep our lakes and most lakes anywhere at full pond. That is, the full pond is the maximum capacity for the lake. That is like the top of the dam, so to speak. Most of the time they keep it, here around 3 feet below that point. Some of you guys on some of these bigger drainages like Tennessee River, it may be many feet below that. It may be 8 or 10 feet below that. And I know some of those drainages out there are 30 or 40 feet. I've seen the marks on some of those bluffs out there. And a lot of it has to do with, just seasonal occurrences, what's going on, which lake it is in the system, how much water it's getting from snow melt and snow runoff. Our lakes have been right on target. So I think that'll be a good thing for, spawning fish, gives them a good stable place. And fish adapt, though. That's the other thing. If you have a drought, if you have, a flood and a drop in the water, these fish adapt. It's dropping a lake back down from full pond to target elevation is not going to kill a spawn. I see that in some of the community groups there and for some of the lakes. And, they say, oh, you're killing spawn, you're killing the beds, and blah, blah, blah. Listen, it's why fish don't all spawn on the same day. The same bird. It's why a spawn takes a month for it to happen. It's nature's way of accounting for a lot of this stuff going on. And, if they all spawned at one time, the predators would eat every one of them. It would be that easy. That's why stuff is drug out and spread out. So, I think this will be a good year. So I think, we won't know the results until you really tell it in the fall and you really tell it early next year. Especially if you have looked at a lot of our juvenile catfish, and I'm talking the small fry from this year's hatch. You will see them. You got to have really good sonar picture to see it. But you can see them. Usually they're in the bottom of the river channels for some reason. I don't know why they go there, but there will be literally millions of them in there. A lot of them get eat. A lot of them get eat by other catfish. But we have wondered what that is. We'd seen those little black things on the bottom, that lining of it down on the bottom. I'm not talking about the thermocline signature, but this little black signature. And it's a bunch of little individual specks. And a few years ago, we had, thrown a cast net on. Anybody knows you throw a cast net, by the time it gets down to 35 feet of water, it's, that big around. But we finally got down there and caught what it was. And a bunch of catfish that size in a cast net, y'all know what happens. You don't do that anymore. It's a mess. But I've had a couple of people try it, and that's where those things are at. And that's when you really start to see it. Usually, late into the fall, you'll start seeing that stuff showing up out there. I don't know if that's just their safe zone or what it is, or if there's micro stuff down there that they're eating on. But that's where we end up seeing them, and they end up going to. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, it's been a good year. My fishing has been good. We've had some good fish on the guide trips. I've done it's a double-edged sword. The bad thing is I've done guide trips, and that has taken me away from like big fish fishing, because while we fish in areas for big fish, we're not totally targeting big fish. We're trying to catch fish on the guide trips. Not trying to catch small fish, but not targeting big fish. We're trying to hit that in between so that you're catching some decent, good fish, but you're fishing in areas you got the opportunity to catch big fish. So that has taken me away from some of the big fish fishing that I go on for some of the videos where you're just trying to get 3 or 4 bites and you're done. So, but it's been a interesting year for me in my world. Any of y'all that followed the podcast or the channel, last year was shut down, and was doing nothing. I cranked out YouTube videos during this time period, and this year I got everything going on. Guide trips are going like crazy, channel's going great, and the TV production stuff, the video production stuff that we do outside of the fishing world is crazy. So it's a lot going on, and blessed to have it all going on. Blessed to have you guys watching the channel, commenting, listening to the podcast, booking guide trips. Good place to be right now. I'm blessed and very thankful to have it. And it's why I do what I do. That's why I put this content out. So anyway, that's it for now. I'm going to jump off of here. Appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate you guys watching. Send me some comments. And until then, we'll catch you out on the water. Well, folks, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. Here are a couple more videos that I think you're going to like. I'd watch that one and then that one. No, do that one first and then that one. I don't know. Just watch them both. They're both good.